So tonight we're going to do a deep dive into the VixenPlus Roadie, the profile manager. And this is really, the concept of Roadie is a Roadie is somebody who sets up your entire show for you, for the artist to be able to play, gets everything connected, does all the electrical work, does all the rigging, does pretty much everything except play the music. So Roadie is, I thought that was kind of the idea when I named it that, was it's central to setting up your show. It's central to putting everything together for you. With that, you need to put a lot of thought into how you're going to put your show together, the elements you want to create, the how you want to lay it out, how you want to control it. You need to think of that beforehand before you really even come in to VixenPlus. Put it to paper or put it in a spreadsheet, somehow document how you visualize your show looking, and that will help you a lot with setting up your show. So without further delay, we'll go in, and first thing I want to do, I want to have a really simple show. I just want to have a few mini trees. I want to have a mega tree with 2,400 nodes. So what I have in my notes here, I've got 12 mini trees, and they're 4-color mini trees, and I actually have those in real life. And I also, on the notes, like I said, 2,400 node, or channel, not node, but channel mega tree. And then I just want to add 1,200 channels of a roof outline that I'm going to do. So that's the goal that we're going to present. We will name this tutorial March. All right. The first thing I wanted to do is I have those 12 mini trees that are 4 channels each, and they're red, green, blue, and white. And so I'm going to go into the add multiple channels, and since I know that they're mini trees, I'm going to say mini tree. I just start thinking about how I want the channel named before I even worry about putting numbers or channel generation rules or anything like that in. My thinking when I was implementing this is it should just be how you want to name it. You shouldn't have to worry about how you go about doing it. Just what do you want to name it? And I want to name my mini trees, and then I want to name them 1 through 12. And then for each color, I want to have a channel. So we will, I know I want to put that variable there. So that's mini tree 1, and then the color value I know is going to be another value. And then I come down to the channel generation rules, and the first one I want it to be a number, so I go numbers and I add that. And it's going to be 12 of them. We know that, so I use the N number. Words would be next, and then like I said, I wanted the color to be in the mini tree next, so it would be red, green, blue, white. And then I want to be sure that I double click on that and select white for my 4th color so it matches red, green, blue, and white, because I am using colors. And then I want to generate 48 channels, because I know 12 times 4 is 48. And refresh it. And there we have 48 channels. Red, green, blue, white, 2. It looks good. So I say add the channels to the profile, and you'll notice up here it says preview. And as soon as I click add channels, it goes back to the channel screen. I want to point that out. A lot of people have had confusion about that. So very easily there, I've added my 12 mini trees with 4 channels on each mini tree, and it's set to go. Now I wanted to add a 2,400 channel mega tree. So we go again to this, I clear the settings out, and now I want to be this mega tree, this mega, and then it's going to be string something node something, and then a colon, and then the color. So that's how I want it named. So anywhere those somethings, those are going to be our variables that we're going to put in here in our channel generation rules. So string is going to be a number. For this, I am going to have, what did I figure out? 40 strings, I believe it was. So we know it's going to be 2,400 channels. We add a number rule, 40. And there we can see we've got string 1 through 40. Great. Now my node is going to be another number. And this one, I believe, needs to be, let's see, 2,400. 20. Then we're going to add our words. Whoops. And it's going to be RGB. And you can see it's updating as I type. So there we've got string 1, node 1, RGB, string 1, node 2, RGB. I go down and I look at the bottom. Since we started at channel 49, it ends at 2448. That's 2,400 channels. String 20, node 20, blue. Uh-oh, my colors aren't right. All I've got to do is go in there and say transparent or none. And now it's looking a lot better. And I say, okay, that looks right. And I click add channels. And we come back to the channels page. And I now have 2448. And now I want to add that roof line. So we click into the add multiple again. I'll clear my settings. And these again are pixels, so roof line. And it's just a bunch of nodes all together. And what I should have done is kept those other rules and just deleted the first rule, and I would have been good to go on this. And it would be 400. And then we'll add a word. And that would be RGB. And we are going to use the colors. And 1,200 channels. And there we go. Now, one thing I could have done is just unclick the use end number, and since it was 1,200 channels and I had 3 words, it lets the computer figures out that's 400 channels. So there are some shortcuts you can use if you don't want to do the calculations like I was doing. You can just click the use end number, and that will calculate it for you. So I'm going to add those channels, 2,400 channels. And there's those channels, or 1,200 channels. Oh, yep, 1,200 channels, 400. And now, you know, I forgot about the, there's a new number rule I want to show, this bounce feature here, what that means. And the reason I put that in there is I have arches that I like to have go left 1, left 2, left 3, left 4, and then bounce back down, right 4, right 3, right 2, right 1. And so that number rule is this second number, this second parameter over here, that I'm bouncing. I'm bouncing up to 4 and down to 1, the starting number 1 to 4. So 1 to 4, and then 4 to 1, and then bounce 1 to 4, 4 to 1. So that's what that bounce does. If I unclick that, you'll notice it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I don't like my arches laid out like that, so I just thought, I wonder if I click that number in there, if it'll work. And bada bing, we have a new feature in the numbering of channels. So there's my arches. I'm going to go ahead and add them in too. It's just 3 arches, 24 channels. And that's how easily it was for me to set up 3,600 channels by just having some planning. And of course, this is only 4 elements, or if you count the 12 trees as 12 elements, it's really not that many elements. But that took a total of about 10 minutes to do. So now one of the things I did is I put these arches down at the bottom, and I realized that I'm not going to really control them with a pixel controller, that they'll probably go on one of my channel controllers, like a Renard controller or something like that. So I want to move them up towards where my mini trees are and before all my pixels. And what I'm doing here, I'm going to click the first channel, and I'm going to shift click down to the last channel I want. And then I'm going to simply, and with all these channels, this is going to be fun. Go up to my first channel again and right click and just drag them up to the top. Okay, so I wanted this to start at channel 49, and so I'm going to release right there on channel 49, and I forgot it's doing a lot of shuffling because we had all those channels, so it had to go through and say, oh, you want to move these channels. And hallelujah, everything worked. It renumbered the channels, it renumbered the output channel, all that. Now, there's a couple tricks to that. Depending on where you grab, if I grab over in the output channel area, it's going to renumber just that. It's I'm not going to do it with this profile. I'll set up a small profile, and I'll show you how to do it with by renumbering the output channel and renumbering the channel. I shouldn't have done it with this huge profile. So I'm going to say OK on that. And we're going to go in. And this will keep it real easy. We've got 20 channels here. The channel number, the channel name, and the output channel are all the same if you look at that right now. So this will show really well what I'm trying to demonstrate. So if I want to take channel 10, 11, 12, and 13, and I want to change the output of those, and I want those to be channel 1, 2, 3, and 4, I will drag and drop over into the output channel. And you notice that now channel 10, 11, 12, and 13 are output channel 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that allows you to change your output channel. Now, if I just take and drag and drop them now back down in the name column, it really screwed things up. Oh, that's right. I didn't want to drop it in the name column. I wanted to drop it in the channel column. This, because of output channels and the concept of output channels and channel mapping and people wanting channel 1 to go out to a different channel number, and figuring out a user interface to how to do this, it's really confusing to try to implement something that really works. I try to do it here in VixenPlus, and you can see it's not an easy thing to implement. Changing your output channel, changing your channel names, and all that. What I would really like from folks, and input from folks, people watching the video too, is what are your expectations? What are your ideas? How do you expect it to work? And such. And I would really appreciate any comments on the forum. about that. So that'd be great. I am going to go back into the code on this when I get that feedback and implement your guys' ideas. So if you have just a single channel selected, you'll notice that the channel color button, only one color, only makes sense. You've only got one selected. But as soon as you start selecting more, you get the multicolor dialog box. And what this will allow you to do is, if you don't like the colors of, say, all your odd channels, and you want to just select your odd channels and, say, color them pink and make some old school printer paper, there you go. Or if you want to take and do multiple colors, it's the same as in the multi-channel ad, where every X color, in this case 1, 2, 3 colors, is going to be red, green, and blue. We want a fourth color in there, so we'll go ahead and add white and go OK, and there we have our red, green, blue, and white. So that's what the one color and the multicolor do. You can also go and double click on the channel color itself, and it'll bring up a dialog for that color, and select the color, or double click again, and you can just double click on the color in here. You don't have to click the color and then click OK. You can double click the color. And you can also, in the color dialog, let me point out some things here. This is this red, green, blue bar is showing you what color you're going to get from the color you currently have if you drag that bar. So the more I take the red down, you can see the more cyan that color gets. And now, since that's the case, the more I take the green down, that'll only leave the blue channel, so of course it's going to get more blue. So that color bar, if you're trying to nail some sort of color, it kind of will help you, you know, like, hey, I want this really funky brown here. That's the color I've been looking for all my life. You can figure it out by looking at these color bars here. I personally think that brown is ugly, so we'll go back to white. All right. More in the color dialog. When you are doing multicolor, and say I have this white selected here, there's a couple ways you can get rid of it. You can say none, and that'll get rid of it. Or we'll go back to white. Or you can go up to the drop down here and say transparent. They're both equivalent, and that'll get rid of it. Well, these custom colors are stored between sessions, and these are the default colors that VixenPlus ships with. If you change those get stored in your preference files, and so those go pretty much anywhere a color dialog is brought up in VixenPlus. Those colors should appear. Those color preferences should be all across VixenPlus. So anytime you set those up, you should be good to go throughout the entire program. There's channel enabling and disabling. Boy, this is going to be a tough one to explain. Basically, you see the channel enabled and disabled over here. It allows you to go through, and again, if I want to disable my odd channels, I can just select them and then say disable, and it just goes through and disables those channels. And I bet you guys can guess what enable does. It enables those channels. One of the things that was asked for is I want to be able to export my files, my profile, to a CSV. So I'm going to open up, and I'm going to export that to a CSV file. And you'll notice the path that goes into your data under support, and imports and exports is where your files will end up. And of course, you can change that path if you want to, but that's the default location. There's our simple CSV. All right. And there's the export. Now you can manipulate this in any way that you want. The only requirement is when you are going to import it back, these are the 5 columns that you need. The headers are ignored by the software, I believe, if I remember correctly. And it's just this data that has to match the format. Like the color has to be in a hex color format, and the output channel needs to be numeric, and the channel number needs to be numeric, and channel enabled needs to be either true or false. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this to false. So we're going to turn off one arch, and we're going to make it, I don't know what color that is, but we're going to make it that color. And we're just going to save this back. And now we're going to import that. I shouldn't get a sharing violation this time. There we go. So I changed it to yellow, and I disabled the channel. So that is the export import. It basically just allows you to go into Excel, and if you want to record things like how many watts an individual element takes and different data. I have some spreadsheets that I record all kinds of geeky stuff on. It just allows you to do that and then build your profile actually from that, or tweak your profile from that. It's not necessarily for building your profile. So that is the import and the export. Let's go back to the tutorial. And there's all our channels. So the plugins. I'm not going to dive deep into each one of the different plugins because eventually I anticipate there's going to be a whole bunch of plugins. But the plugins are how you get the data from all those channels that you just set up out to the controllers and out to your elements to make your show work. And there are also plugins that allow you to preview your show, look how it's going to look when you do the music, see if things are synced right, and basically tweak your show to make it just perfect for your audience. And those are generally the previews, the adjustable preview and the RGB Megatree 3D preview. And one of the things that I've done with recent releases of VixenPlus is any of the preview plugins, like the RGB Megatree or the adjustable preview, are no longer tied to or constrained to within the VixenPlus window. They can actually, if you have multiple monitors, they can go on other monitors, and they remember their location. Their location. Right now, they don't remember their size. That's one thing I have on my to-do list, but they will remember their size within the next couple of releases. I'm trying to get that into the March release, as a matter of fact. So that way, if you start playing back and your adjustable preview pops up and you move it over to where you want it, it's going to remember that location for you. I found that very useful, not constraining it to the VixenPlus window. Like I say, I'm not going to go through each one of these, but we've got the basic Renard and generic serial and the E131 and DMX and open. And then we have the launcher, which is kind of a unique one. And I will dive a little deeper into this one. I will go into the generic serial too. We'll add that real quick. Because it's not much different than a regular serial setup, but you can send out a header for each frame that VixenPlus will send out. So if you have 50 millisecond timing, it's going to send out this header each 50 milliseconds. And you can also send out a footer. So after the packet, it'll send this afterwards. So if you have a custom hardware that needs a very specific protocol, and you can set that up here, and you would say whatever that protocol was, like if it was at, that's how you get its attention, and then when it was done is percent or something like that. You could set that up. So this can drive just about any piece of hardware that you can write a simple serial protocol for. But that's what I wanted to show on that, is you can actually have each packet, add data to it. Then on the launcher, what I want to show is what this basically does is you can say on, I only want this on channel 1, so channel 1 is going to be my launcher channel. When a certain threshold is met, I want to launch an executable program, and I'm just going to, for the sake, because VixenPlus is right there, I want to launch VixenPlus with these parameters. And it triggers at 50%. So what you can do with this is you can launch just about any program that your Windows machine can run at any point in your sequence. And you could have up to 100 of these if you wanted to, because, well, you could have it unlimited on them if you wanted to. But this is how people will run RDS systems. I have users that use this for the LED tricks software. I have users that use this to trigger lights and such for specific, you know, they just, I need to write the, not lights, but specific programs and such. So that's what the launcher plugin, I'm sorry, does. Groups. Their first thing I want to start with is you notice all your channels came in here that we defined. So there's my mini trees, there's my arches, there's my mega tree, my roof line. They're all there. And I can sort them either by color, by name. So by color, there they all are, sorted by color. By name, this is where sometimes your naming conventions can bite you in the butt. Like I'm already noticing here, ooh, I didn't like this because string 1 now is sorted after string 10. I should have zero padded those, which is something that you can do. That is one thing I did not show you on the multi-channel ad. Let's finish this first, and then we'll go back to that. By color, the name, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to go natural order, because right now I just want to add a group and say mini trees. And I'm just going to take all my mini trees, whoops, and just add them, then they're quick and dirty like that. Now I'm going to add multiple groups, and I want to add 4 of them. Mini tree by color. Now I just want to get the red ones. Oh, wait a minute, I don't like mini tree by color 1. I want to rename that by color red. And you notice you can't rename multiple because it can't have the same name. So if I try to rename that one to color red, it'll tell you you can't have a group that already exists with the same name. And I've got a request. There's a JIRA open item that the multi-channel, multi-ad followed the paradigm that is set up in the channels over here. And I agree. That's a good idea. Because then I could do this without having to do all this editing like that. Where'd my mini trees go? Dang it. Let's go back to this. Okay. So you get the idea with that. I could go and do the blue and the white. Now I'm going to add another group. I'm going to call this mini trees combined. And what I'm demonstrating here is I just want to show some of the flexibility of how you can express the different channels and express them in multiple different ways. So here I'm only focused on the first 48 channels, and I've already defined 6 different ways that I want to view them. So this combined, what I'm going to do with that is I am going to that group. I am going to copy a group into there, and I'm going to copy my red, blue, red. Hold down the control key and you can select multiples, and then that is represented in that group too. So that's just another way to look at those. You can copy a group if you like, the way something is grouped together, you can copy it. Oh, and that just copied it into there. Never mind. Delete, delete. And so here, that's basically a symbolic link to the real thing up here. If I change anything up here, that will be reflected down here as well. So if I take and remove R1, and I come down to the combined, and I look in the red, you'll notice R1 is gone there as well. So now I want to take and add R1 back in. And that doesn't oh, it got added to the bottom. That's right. And we'll go up. We'll just move it up to where we want it. And you notice it does not get reflected down here until I close that and open it. Oh. And you notice that move up and move down is disabled because it knows that this is supposed to be a representation. So that'll be fixed. That should represent, and it actually, when it gets saved, it will represent. So if I say save on that, and I go OK, and I come out and back in, it's going to be just fine. And there it is up at the top where it should be. Because I don't actually save it like it was shown there. I save it up here. So you can go crazy with the groups. There's no constraints on it other than you can't have a group name duplicated. Channels can only be represented in a group or subgroup one time. If you add subgroups that has that channel in it again, it's the first one in wins, so it'll be placed in that position. But those are about the only constraints on groups. So you can go crazy however you want the groups. And where the groups come in is when you're sequencing and you want to focus on a specific element, you can tighten it down. For example, if I just want to focus on my mini trees when I'm sequencing, let's go ahead and save this. So now if I want to just focus on my red mini trees, I can do that instead of having to worry about all 3,000 channels or how many ever channels we have listed here. Then that way I can just fine tune whatever it is I'm working on. I want to do a fade here. So boom, there's the fade, and it did not impact any other channels. So that's where the groups come in very handy, where you want to focus and isolate specific elements so you can work on them. So you can go in here and edit the groups live. So we'll add a group. Another group, and I've got caps locks on, obviously. Another. All right, and you see that was done live, and there's your group. So you can click up here. If you're saying, oh man, it'd be great to have this group, all you got to do is pop in, edit your profile, click OK, and that's going to be updated live over here.